Hi there again, friends. This is Lisa. So now that I've given a little bit of intro on, how it was to get into boarding school the first week and the dynamic, I thought it'd be a nice time to start getting into some of the stories. I will be starting the witchcraft series today about the witchcraft stories, starting with this peculiar one, which was the most popular, Kosh Kosh. And you'll find out why we called it Kosh Kosh. Now, the school was full, except for the 6th level students who were due to come in a few weeks, but something scary had started happening. So, some girls had started waking up at night screaming, claiming to have seen a woman walking through the dorm in the middle of the night, or claiming to have heard some sounds of heels, hence the name Kosh Kosh. So over time, it started to escalate to the point where going to bed became so scary. We started joining our beds and having joining our beds together, our bunk beds together, and having bunk buddies. By now, we had made some friends, so we'll be able to sleep together to help with the fear. Then one night, we heard a scream. It was so loud that the other dorms also heard it. It was coming from one of the dorms. Some senior students got up and ran towards the dorm that the screams were coming from. They found a girl who was grabbing onto her neck. So she had felt someone pressing her neck, and her neck at this point looked swollen and red. She could not even move. She couldn't move it. That was the first real attack. It had gone from suspicion to real, and from imagination to physical. That night was around 3 a.m. and the girls decided we will all wake up and start singing and praying, because at that point, this was a Christian school. So at that point, the first thing you think of is God, right? So we start singing and praying, and all the girls left their dorms and we gathered out on the cold in the devotion grounds, singing, praying. Man, the fear was real. I mean, it was weird, real, scary, sad. Like somebody actually got attacked. So we've been telling teachers at the school and the school authorities about the happenings at the dorm, because it kind of slowly escalated. It was happening bit by bit by bit, and then it escalated. Now we finally had some proof. So in the morning, we could all see the girl's neck, and what we had heard at night was now right before our eyes. It was red, it was swollen. She could barely move her neck. So she was transported to the dispensary to be treated, although being treated for what exactly? Strangulation? So now, would the authorities even believe us? It still seemed like stories, right? Because we went from hearing things, and then now somebody's neck was pressed, and it was the first attack. So at this point, it's like, okay, did that girl just sprain her neck at night? I mean, you kind of make up stories to make it make sense. So when we went to class, we started telling the boys, right, about what happened in the girls' dorm. I mean, mind you, we had been telling them about it already, about the things we've been hearing, and of course, boys are boys. So they laughed at us. They said that we were imagining things. Although some boys had started to share about some weird experiences that they had started experiencing on their end. So, I mean, needless to say, at this point, the atmosphere in the school was just cold, especially in the girls' dorm. Like when we went up to school and had different activities, it helped us forget about some stuff. But every time when it was getting towards evening time, that creepy fear just started coming in again, because we didn't know what else was going to happen that night. We knew we had our bunk buddies that were going to sleep with us, but that didn't stop us from being scared in the middle of the night, right? So night after night is just fear, and as the night arrives, you're just scared. Every night it was bunk beds together, pairing up to sleep, and now we started having more and more incidents. More girls were being sent home in the morning with swollen necks. people had started suspecting that it could be a student who was doing this. It was witchcraft for sure because it wasn't natural. It could be a woman coming from the village because remember, this village was known for witchcraft. So we're speculating, of course, and it was becoming a crisis, and we were more and more sleep deprived. Mind you, we were students. At the end of the day, we still had exams. We still had school. We were there to study, right? So we still had assignments, but we were sleep deprived because each night we wake up like in the middle of the night around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. after screams and start praying and worshiping, right? And just praying for miracle to happen, or at least for the person who's doing this to be exposed. At some point, some girls started suggesting that we need to be more watchful at night, like when an attack happens. They were suggesting that we need to watch for the person who does not wake up when all the chaos is happening. Their thought process was that this person who doesn't wake up, it just meant that their body was still in the bed, but that their spirit was still out of their body. So they were suggesting that it meant their spirit was still roaming around and they had not yet returned while the chaos was happening. So with that in mind, people were getting suspicious of other people. It was becoming unhealthy in the girls' dorm. Every wrong action called for interrogation from friends, from senior students, people getting alienated based on suspicion, like just chaos and, unwarranted accusations. So at this point, the lower seed students had arrived and they were now part of the saga, right? The lower seed students had their own troubles happening, and this was just more stress on them. We'll talk about that in another episode about the lower seed students and what we called rush hour. So anyway, one day there was a great suspicion that had arose about this second level girl. Apparently she had been acting weird. Then she may or may not have gotten up when others woke up in the middle of the night, coupled with other things that she had done or that some people knew about her. So this girl, the senior students just took her into another dorm, made sure the dorm was evacuated. Then they locked the dorm and started interrogating her. We're outside, we don't really know what's happening, but all we could hear was like they were shouting at her, they were asking her questions, some were even beating her. This was a normal thing that happened when a girl stole, for example. We'll talk about stealing later, but this is the things that happened when there was an incident like stealing. They would lock the dorm and interrogate the girl. They're just senior students. So as they're interrogating and beating this girl to get information out of her, we're just outside like speculating like what's happening. They're harassing her for hours. They actually took her metal trunk, and opened it. So eventually when they opened her trunk, they found some fetish things in her trunk. That's when all hell broke loose. She was asking, they were asking her to explain herself, like, why she would have fetish things in her trunk. She finally told them that when she was about to come to school, her grandmother gave her these things and initiated her into some kind of witchcraft. So at this point, yes, that's good information, but what do we do with this? Was she the person who was kosh? That was never really clear. Would we get some kind of relief after this? Where did the things, where were they going to do with those? What were they going to do with those things? They were even afraid to touch them. And what would they do with her? Take her to our religious leaders for prayers? Will she face disciplinary committee, which was the disciplinary actions that they would take when you commit a crime? Will she be suspended or dismissed for witchcraft? Our minds were preoccupied with so much fear that we don't even know what ended up happening to her. All we know is that she left school and never came back. Sadly though, the attacks continued to happen. So these are the kind of things that were happening again and again. And in the next episode, I will tell you about a girl who did not take her own attack lightly. So until next time, friends, stay curious.